Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hi, Assalamualaikum and greetings to all. I am Jawati binti Johari from the National Defence University of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and I am here to share my short research entitled Responding to Students' Needs for an Integrated Teaching and Learning Model for Industrial Revolution 4.0 Ready Graduates. And for your information, this is part of a bigger research. So I am here to share only the pilot tests of this research. So basically, the results of this paper come from the pilot test. The keywords for this particular research include classroom learning, Danielson's framework, IR 4.0, learning experience and environment, and Thayer system. Before we go further, these are the things that I'm going to talk about in this presentation. Introduction, methodology, results, and conclusions. So let's begin. For the introduction, I will cover objective, the issue or the problem statement, selected literature review, and then the assumption as well as the research questions. For the objectives, there are two. First is to develop and later pilot test a teaching and learning model to prepare IR 4.0 ready graduates. And second, to identify the feedbacks of students on the teaching and learning model used. So basically, at the beginning of the research, I developed a teaching and learning model, pilot test it, and the students will have to give feedback on that teaching and learning model. Now, the issue, the National Defence University of Malaysia has a mixed student population. So we have military cadets, we have reserve officers training unit students, as well as civilian students. And this raises this question, whether the teaching and learning approaches used at the NUM are suitable to cater to all students' needs, especially to prepare them with the required skills to face IR 4.0. And the assumption that comes in this short research is the existing teaching and learning approaches at the Defence University have not prepared the students to face the challenges of the 21st century. And with that, there are two research questions. First, what are the needs of the students in preparing them for IR 4.0 workforce? And second, what are the reactions of students on the proposed teaching and learning model for preparing them to be IR 4.0 ready graduates? So now we're going to look at the literature review. I have selected three. The first one is IR 4.0. And basically IR 4.0 relies on artificial intelligence, and it is able to transform a working environment from task-based characteristics to human-centered characteristics. And for Malaysia, under the Ministry of Higher Education, the ministry has actually proposed a teaching and learning 4.0 model, which consists of learning spaces, pedagogy, fluid and organic curriculum technologies. And these aspects are supported by various pedagogies that we have. Second is the Danielson's framework for teaching, which has four critical components, including planning and preparation, classroom environment, classroom instruction, and professional responsibilities. And the last literature reviews segment is focusing on the Thayer system. Now, the Thayer system originated from West Point, the United States Military Academy, West Point, New York. And it has a combination of behaviorist and constructivist approaches to learning. And the characteristics of this Thayer system characteristics include classes were of small sizes, active learning is encouraged or used, review of previous lessons at the start of each day, and an interactive learning environment that bridged the hierarchical gap between students and instructors. So basically, the Thayer system as well as the Danielson's framework become the basis for the proposed teaching and learning model. Now, let's have a look at the methodology of my short research. It is a mixed method approach that I have used. After developing and using the proposed model during classroom sessions, during the classroom session, I conducted observations and I used observation notes. And after the second semester ended, I actually handed out survey to the students. It's actually online survey. The stages of the research methodology are first, development phase. So this is where I actually developed the teaching and learning model, data collection phase, and last but not least, the data analysis phase. And this is the proposed teaching and learning model. And this is actually used in one academic semester for 2 different classes, but the same student took the 2 classes. So first we have planning and preparation. So this is where the materials and methods are carefully selected. And then I have to choose between behaviorist or constructivist approaches to teaching and learning. And this actually depends on the topic or the lessons of the day. In terms of the classroom environment, the classes are in small sizes. This one can be a little bit tricky because you are not allowed to actually choose the number of students in your class. But if you can propose to your administrator at your university or at your college, then that would be very good. In terms of instruction, I use blended learning, especially flipped classroom. And active learning is promoted, and this is an interactive environment where Socratic dialogues are used. There's no lectures because I adopt a flipped classroom. And last but not least, professional responsibilities. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the proposed teaching and learning model. And a little bit more in terms of the model or what I did actually before I used the model. So basically the planning and preparation phase, as I said, this is where I select the teaching and learning materials. The approach to teaching was also chosen. And mostly I chose constructivist approach to teaching because this actually gives the students room to tap into their potentials. And students were seated according to the previous semester's academic achievement. So good students were seated at the back of the classroom, and those who required the most assistance were seated in front. And this allows for effective grouping strategy. Now, this is the example of the seating arrangement for the students, 59 of them. Maybe not all managed to be in this picture, but this is the seating arrangement, and they will be sitting in this arrangement from the beginning of the semester until the end. And basically, there's no lectures in my 2 classes for the 2 semesters. Flipped classroom was adopted. And we have a lot of activities. They have to do activities in order to enhance their understanding of the materials that they have to actually read before coming to the class. And the results. So basically, 59 students answered the survey after the second semester because all of them were involved during the teaching and learning process using the proposed teaching and learning model. And as I said, 2 semesters that I have used in order to pilot test the teaching and learning model. And this happened actually in semester 1, 2018-2019, and academic semester 2, 2018-2019, 2 different courses. And these are the results from the survey, basically. Most respondents were female, 50 respondents, or about 83%, and the other 10 respondents were male. The majority of the respondents were satisfied with blended learning, and 17 respondents opined that blended learning is very good for them. So table 1 is this one here. It shows the mean as well as standard deviation of selected items from the survey. And what can be understood, or what can be summarized from this table, is that the respondents were positive about the use of flipped classroom during their learning process. And if you look at answering the research questions, we have 2 research questions posed earlier. What are the needs of the students? So there are basically 3 significant needs based on the survey, as well as the observations that I made during the 2 semesters. The first one, the student require more effective learning experience. They require a more effective learning experience and environment in order to nurture their potential. So they have to be more active and responsive during the teaching and learning process, so that they can tap into their abilities and potential to think critically and make effective decisions. The second need is the fact that the students need to apply what they have read or watched or listened to from the e-learning portal in the activities designed during classroom learning. And this allows for more meaningful and engaging learning, since they will be using the concepts learned online and independently in interactive classrooms activities. So basically, for flipped classroom concept, whatever that they learn online, they have to apply. That's why apply in the classroom sessions. That's why there is no lectures during the classroom sessions. All activities. So we have to design various types of activities. One of them that I have, this is also something that I design, is work the walk. So basically using all the whiteboards around the classroom, the students will do activities on them, and then they have to exchange ideas. And the third need that the students must have, they need to build their confidence to communicate, collaborate, and negotiate the meaning of what they have learned. So that is why it is very, very critical to allow students to perform activities during classroom learning that can help build students' character. So all these 3 needs is to answer the first research question. The second research question is on the feedback of the students on the proposed teaching and learning model. So basically, this table actually summarizes the whole feedback of the student. So students' reaction basically can be divided into 2, directly or indirectly. So firstly, some respondents had never heard of IR 4.0. And that is why perhaps they were not able to relate their learning experience and environment for their future jobs. Secondly, now this is very interesting, the majority of the respondents claimed that their learning experience and environment for the 2 semesters were meaningful because they became independent learners, adaptive to the environment, and critical thinkers. So if you look at the table here that summarizes the whole feedback of the students, we have actually 10 students who did not actually give relevant answers to the question. So we have never heard of IR 4.0. Now, I need to remind you that the students, when they answered this, they were in their second year of studies. Becoming independent learners, we have 6 respondents. Update skills and knowledge, we have 16. Becoming adaptive of a new environment, 12. Becoming critical thinkers, 5. And as I said, not relevant to the question, so a total of 59 students responded to this. Now, answering the assumption or revisiting the assumption. The assumption of this paper is that the existing teaching and learning approaches at the Defence University have not prepared the students to face the challenges of the 21st century. So what can be said about this is the fact that from the findings of the quantitative and qualitative data is that it is relevant and urgent to adopt for better teaching and learning approaches in lieu of the demands of the current workforce. And these new demands actually require the future graduates to be more innovative and creative, critical thinkers, and possessing emotional intelligence and negotiation skills. So the proposed teaching and learning model will be able to cater to all these new demands. So to conclude, as I said, the proposed model for teaching and learning has a long way to go. Pilot tested only at this stage for 2 semesters with 2 classes of the same students. And the bigger challenge is to plan for the implementation of this proposed model at the NUM. For example, we need to validate this proposed teaching and learning model by experts, presentations to the relevant committees, training of academics, and many others. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. If there are any questions, I can be contacted at jawati@upnm.edu.my. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. And once again, greetings to all.